understand or figure out if it's true or not? Well, in this class, what I teach you is a new historical framework to understand history, okay? So this is predictive history, and we ask ourselves, does the Battle of Cannae fit into a larger historical pattern, okay? Second question we ask is, does it make sense according to game theory? And the third question is, does religion explain the battle, okay? And when we do this, when we use this framework to understand the Battle of Cannae, our conclusion must be, it didn't happen. It was completely made up. Okay? The Battle of Cannae did not happen. So why? Well, first of all, when we have these great military generals like Hannibal Barca, they tend to become a king. Okay? So think of Napoleon, or think of Julius Caesar. Hannibal Barca is the first general that we have that conquered all of Rome and decided, I'm just gonna sit back and like retire for the next 50 years. Okay? Never happened before. Why didn't he go back to Carthage and claim the kingship, right? Okay, that's the first problem. Second problem is game theory, okay? So if you read Roman history, what they will tell you is that Hannibal, after the Battle of Cannae, he was stuck in Italy without resources. Then the question is, why did he go to Carthage, conquer the place, and demand the resources he needs to win against Rome? Why is he just sitting back, okay? Also remember, this is a guy who crossed the Alps on his own initiative. The Carthaginians told him, don't start a war with Rome, Hannibal. And then Hannibal was like, nah, I'm gonna go across the Alps. Thank you very much, okay? So this makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. And then from a religious perspective, how can we explain why Hannibal did what he did? And the Roman historians will tell you, oh, it's because his father lost against Rome. He wanted revenge on behalf of his father. That makes no sense, guys, okay? Usually when a Napoleon emerges, it's because he thinks he's a son of God. Think of Napoleon, think of Alexander the Great, think of Julius Caesar, okay? They all have a messianic calling, a divine mission, all right? So from this, only conclusion can be, first of all, Battle of Cannae did not happen. There's no way it could have happened. The second thing is, you can also say that Hannibal Barca did not exist as a person, all right? But then this leads us to a really huge problem, which is, why would the Romans just make this stuff up? Why? Why would they say, we fought this battle and 100,000 of our men got killed by this Carthaginian general Hannibal, who's smarter than us, okay? Well, the reason why is this, Carthage, okay? That Carthage is at this time in history, about 200 BCE, the most beautiful, the most prosperous, the most cultured city in the world. And what did Romans do? They burned it to the ground and killed everyone. Okay? That's just the Roman way. Now, this is a siege of Carthage that lasted many, many years in the Third Punic War. The Romans, if they don't like you, they will come and kill every one of you, okay? And that's what they did in Carthage. Now, during this war, a Greek named Polybius, okay? Polybius was a hostage of Rome, and he became the official historian of the Roman Empire. So this is a guy who invented the Battle of Cannae. Why? To justify the burning of Carthage, right? Because the Romans are like, why did we kill the Carthaginians? Because that's what we do, man, okay? But Polybius is Greek, and he understands that, you know, if Rome, you're gonna be an empire, you need people on your side. You can't go around just killing people. You need to explain your actions. So in other words, Polybius, in order to justify the Roman Empire, create this entire history of the Second Punic War that didn't really happen, okay? Because now it's like, okay, well, the Romans felt threatened by Hannibal, right? Hannibal was going to destroy them. And so they all saw Carthage as a threat, and therefore they had to destroy Carthage. Now it's much more reasonable, okay? So Polybius basically made the entire history of Rome. The thing to remember about history is that if you're a military power, you don't write history. Why? Because you're not capable of reflection. You're not capable of deep cultural production. Okay? So the Romans won all these battles and got the Greeks to write the history for them, to just justify why they did what they did. Okay? Does that make sense, guys? All right? So again, I hate to say this, but basically, all Roman history is complete nonsense. All right? If you read Roman history, just don't believe anything you read, okay? All right, so let's look at the Roman war machine, because after the war against Carthage, after Rome destroys Carthage, Rome is the undisputed leader of the Mediterranean. It's an empire now. But it still keeps on fighting these wars overseas for no particular reason. Why? Because it has no choice in the matter. This is the entire Roman war machine, okay? So, because Rome's a poor place, the only way that it can generate wealth is by conquering other people, okay? So the nobility wants to go fight these wars overseas so that they can capture slaves. Why? Because they can get these slaves then to work their estates, okay? So at this time in history, slaves are the main resource that people are fighting over, okay? Now, to fight these wars, peasants are conscripted into the military, but once they leave the land, they need to feed their families, right? So what do? They borrow money with their land as collateral, okay? But over time, what happens is they can't pay back the interest, right? They default on the loan, and then landowners, nobility, seize the land. Then what they do is they get the slaves that they conquer to come work this land, right? Now, the peasants have no choice but to go to Rome to look for work because they've lost their land. And the Roman state gives them food. It's called a grain dole, okay? And so now the nobility wants to go fight more wars. What they do is they bribe the peasants to vote for more wars, and then the peasants can go and maybe win some booty, okay? Because they have no land. And so what's happening is that what the Roman war machine is doing is creating slavery, debt, corruption, and inequality. Okay? And over time, what happens is that wealth becomes more consolidated in fewer hands, which creates conflict between the upper nobility and the lower nobility. The optimates are called the upper nobility, and the populares are called the lower nobility. Okay? So what's the difference? Optimates just means the best of the best. Okay? Why do I have so much money? Because I'm better than you are. In fact, my entire family is better than you are. Populares is where we get the word populist from. So this is lower nobility, people like Julius Caesar, who take advantage of the discontent in order to launch their political careers. And what they do is they promise the peasants, the people, more opportunities, okay? To take the wealth of the rich and give it more to the poor. Okay, so this is a conflict that will arise in Rome after the end of Carthage. And this will last for centuries until the very end of the Roman Empire. Okay? In other words, the Roman war machine doesn't know how to stop. Even when it becomes an empire, all this aggressive military energy then translates into civil war. Okay? So the Romans aren't killing other people, they're killing each other. All right, this is a question from a YouTube viewer, and Alera Ford asks, why are wars good at maintaining equilibrium? Okay? Why is it that wars help reduce a problem of elite overproduction? Okay, and the reason why is, and I know it's hard for you guys to understand this, but wars are beneficial. All right, so let's go over the benefits of war. Well, first of all, you create social cohesion, right? You're fighting against another person, you have to stand together. So it creates a dialectic, a hatred of the other, which gives meaning and purpose to life, okay? It creates social mobility. If you're poor, you go fight a war, you get lucky, you can become pretty wealthy. Wealth destruction and generation, okay? So you're destroying wealth, which allows for more opportunities. Survival of the fittest, so population control. So basically, the strong survive in war, the weak die off. High fertility rate. Because so many people are dying, mothers are forced to have more and more children, okay? They don't have a choice in the matter. Innovate, release of social tension. So if people don't like each other, they go fight a war together and now they're best friends. Innovation, creativity, entertainment for nobility, okay? Competition. War is often just, the nobility just enjoys wars because it's like playing a chess game, okay? They're not the ones dying. Worst case scenario, they become hostages, right?